Okay, I took your advice. What do I do now?
Actually, mine never shows.
It's actually better.
Mine stays like that.
It's actually better. He's got a budget. What is it? Higher budget.
No, actually, when we moved, I took a lot of them to the garbage. But I had a bunch. I don't even know what this one is.
Join with me, please, in prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we give you thanks, we give you praise and honor tonight because you are all and you're over all and you're in all. So we ask you to be in this room and in our hearts and in our minds. Forgive us of our failures, our sins. You have redeemed us through the precious blood of Jesus Christ, and we give you thanks tonight in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Hammer? Here. Honeycutt?
Here.
Oliver?
Here.
Lowry?
Here.
Harris?
Here.
Kirkpatrick?
Here.
Gross?
Here.
Witcher?
Here.
Gauntz? Dickinson?
Here.
Neal?
Here.
Norris?
Here.
11 present.
Thank you. You should have in front of you a copy of the minutes from the August 27th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? In the case, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
Councilmember Harrison, second. Councilmember Gross. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item of business tonight, we have Mr. Pat Hoagland here from Brandstetter. He has some information, the master plan for our Parks Department that we have been gathering input for a few months now. So, Mr. Hoagland, we will turn the floor over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to first thank Mayor Doty and the steering committee that's been working with us, and Eddie and his staff have been working with us since, I think we had our kickoff meeting November 30th of last year, so been working at this for several months now. But we're going to talk tonight about, sort of the coming to the end of the process of developing a plan for one of the most positive things you do as a city, and that's improving the quality of life through parks and recreation for your residents and for visitors to the community as well. So, with that in mind, this is a summary. There's several hundred pages in the document. We emailed a digital copy of that, and once the staff's had a chance to review it, we'll be giving binders that I think most everybody will get in the council, and the steering committee members and the staff will get a copy of those. But before we start printing, has several hundred pages of several documents, we want to get the staff to review those first. But I'm going to give you some of the highlights here today. There's quite a bit of information here. We'll be talking about some of the public engagement. We had quite a bit of public engagement in the process. Some service areas analysis, looking at some of the gaps in the system. Then developed on the vision, mission, values, and goals and objectives. Our park recommendations, and there's other recommendations. One of the things a lot of people will focus on are the capital improvements, but we're looking at the whole parks and recreation system and how it can be improved, the programming and the operations, as well as those physical facilities. This is a 4-phase process. First, we start out with an evaluate phase where we just sort of got our arms around your system. We visited all your parks and then the school facilities that have our recreation facilities as well. We looked at benchmarking to other communities throughout the country of similar size. Looked at trends in park and recreation and several things. And then we did the engage phase where we had several methods of public engagement, and I'll show you the results of those in a few minutes. All that led into a development of a vision for the future in the envision phase with goals and objectives. And then from that, a plan. So it was a real process that had these several steps throughout. So right now we're in that plan phase, coming up with those final recommendations. Let me first talk about the public engagement, because all the recommendations in this plan are based on what we heard from your citizens in a variety of different ways. One, there was a statistically valid mail survey sent to 1,500 households. We had a goal of 300 to be returned. We got a little bit over that. There was also a web and handout survey that anybody could fill out rather than just that random sample. We had 475 of those completed. So we've got almost 800 surveys come back. So just a few highlights from those surveys. And in this case, the blue at the top is the mail survey, and the green underneath is the mail survey was statistically valid. The green is the handout survey or the web survey. So at the top of the list, and you'll start seeing some themes throughout here. New or improved restrooms. That's always at the top of the list when we do these throughout the country. Walking trails is pretty much always second. But then you see security cameras and lighting, picnic shelters, playground equipment, drinking fountains. And these are just the top ones on the list. There was about 20 items on the list that people would like to see improved at the existing parks. Throughout the surveys, we asked people to say what's the most important facilities of them and which are the most unmet needs for facilities. And that gives you your priority investment. So here are the walking trails, natural areas, picnic shelters, outdoor swimming pools, playgrounds, and small neighborhood parks were the highest priority elements when you look at the facilities from the mail survey. We asked people what the most important actions the city should take to improve upgrade older parks and facilities is by far at 50%, the number one choice there. Then building more trails, land to preserve open space, natural areas, and historic space, upgrading your athletic fields, and then building an outdoor family aquatic center, and hosting more special events. People really like the special events we're finding from all of our comments. The Hops and Horses event was really a hit. Then we did the same thing for programs. We had that priorities for investment for your programs, and adult fitness and wellness came to the top of that list, followed by summer concerts, programs for people age 50 plus, and then nature programs, and there are programs on the list there. But we see that's pretty common as well. Adult fitness and wellness is extremely important to a lot of people, and people love concerts, and your population is aging. As it is throughout the country. So you got to start looking at not just the focus of kids, but of the people that aren't involved in sports and other activities as well. The top reasons for not using your parks and programs, again, the blue being the mail survey and the green, the web survey. Don't know what's being offered was at the top of the list. So that tells you there's some room for improvements in your marketing and promotion, but that's what often gets cut from budgets in parks and recreation when you don't have enough money, unfortunately. Poor conditions of facilities was another one. There was some facilities that are just a little old and tired and need some work. Safety concerns, some facilities and programs aren't offered. You use other agencies' facilities, and sometimes fees were too high or program times are not convenient for the programs. We asked people if they had $100 how they would spend that on improvements to the parks. And in the dark blue in the upper right there, you see the $18 for upgrading your existing parks. So we've seen that several times. Upgrading your existing facilities is important to people. Second was new aquatic facilities. We've heard that a lot. People really want to replace the pool. Then the orange, $13, was build new walking and biking trails. And the light blue, buy land for open space for future parks. And then the yellow, new recreation and community center. And then the red, build new athletic fields. And there was some other in there as well. At the public workshop that was held in this room, and then also at the Hops and Horses event last year, we had boxes where people could vote for various things. We gave them $1,000 in play money, and they could vote. And children could get involved in the program as well. But for the people that attended those events, building new aquatic facilities was at the top of the list, but close behind was upgrading your existing parks and facilities, buying land for open space, athletic fields, walking and biking trails, and then a new community recreation center followed behind that. And then there was some other specific responses for a skate park, dog park, and more music in the parks. We had about 113 participants in those different activities that participated in that process. Then we had, you see on the slide there, a board that was set up over here where people could put dots on various features in the parks. And you see aquatics got the highest number of votes at 23, more event spaces, trails, natural areas, recreation center, multi-purpose fields, ball diamonds, came to the top of the list. We had about 45 people participate in that program. There were several stations in the room when we had the public workshop, and people could just write down some of their thoughts for improvements. The aquatic center was discussed a lot. Better maintenance of the parks, restroom improvements, more events and festivals, more and longer trails, connectivity between trails and to the neighborhoods and the parks, more open space, better promotion, and safety were some of the top things that were discussed in those meetings. We also had 15 different stakeholder groups, people that use your facilities and programs, so community leaders, your sports groups, and a variety of different groups. And some of the things that they told us were improved maintenance on your parks, upgrading and updates of your facilities, the new pool, better promotion of your parks and facilities, skate park, more variety needed at the parks, more programs are needed, more tennis and pickleball courts are needed, more events and more and better indoor facilities are needed as well. Okay. So that was sort of the results of some of the public input. You saw some themes there, some things that kept coming to the top. The trails, the aquatic facility, and improving what you've got. We did a little mapping, actually quite a bit of mapping. We're just going to show you a couple of them here. This one shows, in the green color is 10-minute walk to a neighborhood park or community park, and then the yellow, oops, I don't know why it went back there. The yellow is a 5-minute drive to a community park, and then the blue area is a 10-minute walk to a school park where there's facilities. So you start to see a few gaps where there are some residential areas and no facilities. And then this one is a composite. We mapped like your picnic shelter locations, your playground locations, shelters, all different types of facilities, laid all those on top of each other. And this map shows in the blue they're very well served, but as you get down to the red, they're not very well served. So you see those red areas are areas where your population isn't as well served. So up in the far north, and then some over in the west and south where there's not much coverage, where people have to go a little further to get to a park. So you'll see in the recommendations later, there's a discussion of some additional neighborhood parks in those areas. From that, we came up with a vision, so a new mission statement to offer safe and convenient parks and programs with modern facilities for all. We wanted a nice short statement that even all the staff and could even get off their mowers and know that mission. And then from that, a vision, inspiring excitement, utilizing parks, programs, and events to deliver opportunities for interaction and entertainment while fostering community pride and wellness. And the steering committee agreed on these, this mission and vision. And I'm going to read all these, but we had several values. One is community. That sense of community is very important to people. Safety is very important to people. Inclusion, including people of all abilities and ages and backgrounds, is important. Collaboration. Knowing that you can't do everything yourself, and the city shouldn't have to do everything themselves, so getting other groups involved working with you and getting some volunteers. And then leadership is also very important, having good leaders to run the programs in the department. So from that, we had 4 different goal areas. The first goal was modern parks. So really upgrading all your facilities with more family-friendly facilities, upgrading your sports, more support, and then land management. Under goal 2, enhanced connectivity, looking at the gathering spaces where the community can come together, more getting people out into nature, because a lot of people really like to get out, and especially those that aren't into sports, and then more trails to connect the community together. Goal 3 was exciting programs and events. Community impact, more inclusion and innovation in your programs, doing some things that are a little different. They're really geared towards Glasgow and your residents and what they want to do. And then 4, effective management and operations, looking at the workforce and the staff you have, the finances of the department, engagement with the community, collaboration with other organizations, and improving your maintenance are all sort of the main areas in the goals and objectives. When we get to the action plan, I believe there's another 110 strategies that go underneath each one of these goal areas. Let's talk about some of the exciting stuff, some of the individual park recommendations. Starting with what we heard the most from people about was replacing the aquatics, the pool now, and making it more into a family aquatic center. A lot of people said that's what they'd love to do. So here in the plan, what you see is where the pool is now. It's right there, and that one there on that one. It's this big, that's where the pool is now. It's putting a recreation center. This is a fairly small site, so this may not ultimately be the site where you'd put a recreation center, depending on the size you want that facility to be. This one here is probably about 22 to 25,000 square feet. But as you come into the park, where the softball field is located now, is where we would put a new family aquatic center. So you expand the parking that's up there, enhance the existing large picnic shelter, expand the playground that's there, put a loop trail around the perimeter of that park, and also put a maintenance facility up here about where there's an existing maintenance building up there now, or storage building. So we'd do that. So let me go to the next one. I got a little blow up of the aquatic center area. This one shows. Oh, sure.
Where did you say the maintenance building was?
That's right there.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a little storage building up there now. It's not in very good shape, but we need to get some maintenance in here because you're going to have a lot of things going on in that park.
What's the red at the upper left-hand corner?
Okay, that's the shelter where the shelter is now.
Okay.
That large picnic shelter.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, just enhancing that a little bit, making that a little better, more attractive. And then you saw it again there as well. That shelter. Playground, you got another shelter over by the spray, there's a small spray ground that would be in here as well. Small lazy river, then you got a slide and zero depth entry and some play features in there. There's a diving well that's also have a climbing wall that you can fall off of and jump off of. Those have been real popular. One nice thing about this arrangement is we could take this spray ground and, when you come August, when you have a hard time getting lifeguards, or sometimes you come Labor Day, when it's still hot, you can keep that spray ground open on the weekends or whatever, or after school, where you don't have to keep the pool open, or even open it up earlier in May if the weather's warmer. So you've got that opportunity with that shelter right there, and you put a restroom on the corner of that building to where it would serve both the pool and the spray ground. That's something that would be very popular. And there's a few shade structures in that area as well. The next site is Beaver Creek Park, and there we're recommending an amphitheater. Take advantage, formalize that. We realize this almost the entire park is in the floodplain. We have to design for that, but put a more formal structure there that you could put a cover over a stage and make that more permanent with a little restroom building up in here. That would support to be close to some of the playground and other equipment that's there as well. Enhance those walking trails, around the perimeter, doing a walking trail through some of the wooded area. It's be an educational and woodland trail loop. Knowing that there's some wet areas we'd have to bridge over, but that could be exciting. A couple basketball courts next to the parking lot, so you get those sort of away from the rest of the family activities, because sometimes basketball courts can get loud. Just the nature, and then getting up the trails throughout, renovating the restroom that's there now as well. Twyman Park, again, it's also got a lot of floodplain issues there. So what we're recommending is taking the restroom that's right about here right now, right next to the creek, and you can see where water's come up to the back of it, and moving that up higher to where it's out of the floodplain, over about where by the existing playground area is, and then moving the playground over or it's in that area as well too, and putting a shelter in there, a new bridge, and then some of that area, I guess it's to the east, to the north, on the right of the screen here, that's really not used as a park at all right now. That's where the shelter goes, up on that side, and then opening that up as area with some trails, and then enhancing that basketball court. Then one of the things I wanted to point out, this is one that, there's a lot of people that walk to this park, but there's a fence all the way around it. So want some openings, some gates in those fences so people can get in there easier from the neighborhood. Weldon Park, there we're going to keep the backstop at the ball field, but make that more of a multi-purpose open field, just more for neighborhood use and open play. Enlarging the dog park, so that's been a very popular amenity. And then renovating the shelter, adding a restroom building and a basketball court in that area, redoing the parking lot and reorganizing that some, and then a new nature-themed type of a playground. And then at the Parks and Recreation office, you've got this large parking lot in the back that isn't really needed anymore. At one time it had a purpose, I'm sure, but it really doesn't need it right now. And this is an area with close to a lot of residents in the downtown area that could use a neighborhood park. Let me blow up on this one. So what you can see here is cutting out a lot of that pavement out and developing a small parking lot, a half basketball court, a couple pickleball courts, a shelter, a playground, restrooms, and some outdoor fitness equipment. And our idea is that long-term, you develop that recreation center at American Legion Park or somewhere else, and that the facilities, the gyms and things in the school building, the old school building that you're in now for Parks and Recreation would become a senior center. So you can do more active types of things in that facility. So this complements that with the pickleball courts and the shade shelter and the outdoor exercise equipment as well, and the little loop trail goes around it. Some other recommendations are generally improving maintenance at all the parks, more support features throughout the park system, shade structures, drinking fountains, security cameras, lighting, trees and landscaping, implement online registration. There's not many departments left that don't have online registration, and you're one of them. That's something it's a real great, convenient thing for people that don't have to go down to the office with their kids and everything else to sign up for programs. Expanding the program offerings so that it's not geared mostly towards the youth as it is now, but adding more for adult fitness and wellness, more concerts and movies, nature programs, and those types of things. More special events, because people were really happy with those and they like coming together as a community. Expanding your marketing of all programs and facilities, add or upgrade your restrooms, replace outdated deteriorated playgrounds. These are all getting to the end of their useful life. After about 15 years, it's hard to get replacement parts, so it's a good time to replacing those. And you're going to need to increase your capital and operating budgets if you want to do this right, to be more in line with what other communities are offering. And then develop that outdoor family aquatic center at American Legion Park. And one more page of recommendations. Expand the citywide trail system, including the gate plan. New loop trails within your existing parks. People love to go to a park and then walk loops. Mark those trails so they know how long that they're walking. Some outdoor fitness equipment at some of the parks. They work just like a gym area. Some of the newer equipment outdoors looks just like the ellipticals and other activities you see in the gym. Some more shelters at existing and your future parks. Restore some of the natural area at your existing and future parks. And then the recreation center with a gym, fitness center, meeting rooms, classrooms, a kitchen, aerobics group fitness room, and other in the offices. Renovate those Parks and Rec offices into a senior center, as I'd mentioned. Develop a centrally located spray ground, possibly somewhere in the downtown area. We looked at that site by the Cultural Arts Center, and it just really isn't quite big enough to do that, but I think we could do it somewhere else. Develop new neighborhood parks in some of those underserved areas, and starting with that land behind the Parks and Rec office. And then look for opportunities to partner with other and improve access to recreation facilities and programs. So, There's a lot more I could go into, but I spare you. I could have brought 100 slides easy. But any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts?
I noticed Goen Park was not listed in the parks list. Is it, would you just leave the facilities there?
Goen Park?
Just improve them?
I mean, yeah, we've got recommendations for all of them. We originally were going to do just a few of them, but then last time we met with the mayor and Eddie, we thought we should do a couple more. Goren, let me just...
Also, Pat, if I may, also, as you know, Councilmember, we've had this discussion with the independent schools about their softball complex, and
right.
If you notice, the water park that they've designed eliminates the softball field at American Legion Park. We were told that they voted 3-2 to build their own park on their own facilities. At that time, we told Branstetter and Carroll to go ahead and consider that park as a viable option for any upgrades that they saw fit. And so they designed into that area. Later, we came back to them and said, at the moment, we've made an offer, so don't put any more time and energies into Goren Park than you have already, because that may, in fact, the layout of that may change significantly based upon the action that they take. So they altered their plan and didn't do a tremendous amount of work with Goren Park. So depending on how that finally does resolve itself, we may have to make some more adjustments to Goren Park. So that's kind of the reason, or part of the reason, that they had included a whole lot with Goren Park.
Well, we do have recommendations for that park as well. Just, the tennis courts, they keep adding layers and layers and layers of asphalt on top of those. That need to be done right. New lighting, some walking trails, and, upgrade of the playgrounds. But depending on what happens at that site, there's some, recommendations in here that'll handle that. So I think that's one you need to look at once you know for sure what's going on there.
Other questions for Pat or Eddie? Yep.
Judge Reed just passed some information along to me. The school board did vote to go ahead and proceed building their own facility.
Okay.
So just wanted to pass that along. So
Okay.
That leaves Goren Park. Okay. So that may be one that we may go ahead and add a concept plan on that, because we weren't sure how much land we were going to be able to use, so what we want to do with that. So that's why this is a draft. We can add things to it.
At one time, there was probably 5 or 6 years ago, some talk about maybe developing a park over Pice Nemac on that street where we own a field and a pond. Is that something that you looked at too?
I don't think, Eddie, we even looked at that property, did we?
we did not.
That would be a good one for them to take a look at. There is still a small piece of that is owned by the city.
Okay.
And Wendell, I think they have got a map that shows, again, a little bit more detail on those underserved areas of our community.
Right.
And that northern or southern part of the community, I think, was one.
Right. We're recommending 2 new parks, 2 small neighborhood parks. We didn't identify specific sites because we don't want land values to go up, but both in the north and the south, along with the area by the Park and Rec office now. But they would, we have a cost in there as well for those, depending on what the site has.
Have identified those general areas of need or underserved areas of our community, and that was one. So certainly could be one that would fit that bill. Other questions for Pat? There's a tremendous amount of information here. Obviously, the price tag to do every bit of this is a little bit more, I think, than most any of us are going to be willing to commit to at this point in time. But kind of the thought process is, now that we know what has been desired by the community, we can take these plans and try and figure out the priority in which we want to address these, which we do and don't want to do, and proceed through them in a methodical way. So certainly don't expect all of these things to begin construction next year and be completed. But
this is a 10-year plan, at least. It may take longer to do some of these things.
Yeah.
All right.
Any clarification or questions, Pat? Very good. Well, thank you so much for your work to this point, and we'll still continue to have discussions with him. So if you do have questions or you hear from any of your constituents, we can certainly get that information passed along to Eddie, his group, and to Brandstetter and Carroll. So,
Mayor Doty, we also have a Park and Recreations meeting on Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock. If anyone else from the council wants to come in, that's at the Rec Department office on Liberty Street.
Thursday?
4 o'clock, Thursday at 4.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Oh, you're welcome. It was my pleasure.
The next item on our agenda, we've got Mr. Scott Young, who's General Manager of the Glasgow Water Company. He's here tonight to make his annual report concerning the business of the water company. So, Scott?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. If you'll give me just a second, I'm going to hopefully get plugged in here.
Scott, while you're preparing there, I would like to ask this group to entertain a motion to suspend the rules. We have with us a representative from Atmos Gas, and if you remember, we solicited for those franchise rights to distribute natural gas in our community. Those were opened at 5 o'clock. We realized that that was supposed to be presented to this group, and we need to do that tonight, if at all possible. So I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules to consider the bids for the natural gas franchise at this time.
Motion.
Have a motion by Councilmember Norris, and second. Councilmember Gross. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. We only had one bid for the natural gas franchise in our community. That was from Atmos Gas Corporation. And that is a 20-year franchise agreement from 2018. Not till 29-23. 20 years from there. That would be 2038. So for that time period, and the rate of that franchise agreement was 3% of its gross revenues.
That's your ordinance number.
Okay. 3% of the gross revenues, and that is the same rate in which we have had for the last 20 years. Are there any questions about the bid for natural gas franchise? That being the case, I'll entertain a motion to accept this franchise proposal.
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilmember Norris, and second.
Second.
Councilmember Honeycutt. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, and thank you very much for being here tonight. Now we will turn it over to Mr. Scott Young.
Thank you, Mayor. In essence, the time I'm going to go through this presentation fairly quickly. You will be happy to know that I did consolidate some of the information that I normally present to council, so removed many slides from this presentation. But please feel free at any time to stop me and ask any questions that you might have. And just for the benefit of those that are in the audience or watching at home, I would like to just take a few moments to briefly explain to the community who is the Glasgow Water Company and what do we do. Of course, we're the 14th largest water utility in the state of Kentucky, and that's out of 340 utilities. We have a service area that encompasses 444 square miles. That includes most of Barron County. You'll see there in the exhibit noted in yellow. That includes the city of Glasgow, and our service area does extend into a portion of Allen County and Edmonson County. We have roughly 19,499 water customer connections. And the good thing about this graph that you'll see is that after the recession, you'll notice that we're growing again. And that's a good problem as a utility that we want to have. So our growth numbers have been tremendous. We are a regional wholesale provider. We actually serve 4 surrounding water utilities. That includes Edmonton Water Works, which provides water to the county of Metcalfe. We provide water to Allen County Water District, Fountain Run Water District, and Caveland Environmental Authority. Our water treatment plant operations distributes over 2.8 billion gallons of water annually. And on the sewer side, we have roughly about a little bit over 7,000 sewer connections, and you can see that this growth as well has been tremendous in the last couple of years. Our water treatment plant operations treats over 758 million gallons of wastewater annually. And we maintain 884 miles of water mains and 144 miles of sewer mains. And I've showed this council and other presentations this graphic before, but if you took the mileage of water mains and sewer mains and added them together, just imagine maintaining one continuous pipeline that would stretch from Glasgow, Kentucky to Pueblo, Colorado. We have 49 employees. We have 45 full-time and 4 part-time employees. 52% of our workforce has a technical or college degree. 46% of our workforce is licensed, certified water and wastewater professionals, and what that means is that we have a skill set within our workforce where these individuals are licensed through the state of Kentucky to treat water, drinking water, to treat wastewater, to serve in the capacity of water distribution or wastewater collections. And these aren't people that we can just go hire off the streets. These are trained individuals that do a quality job. Our workforce has over 520 years of combined experience.
Do you have a sense of losing, titrating out a large percentage of those trained people?
Well, we've been very fortunate in one of the big problems that our industry has that we've discussed amongst the managers in various forums that we've been in is the retirement and the attrition that's taken place within our industry, but also the lack of young people that's coming into our industry. We've been very fortunate in that the majority of our wastewater and water treatment plant operators are younger in nature and have a very unique skill set, and I think we are setting in a good net position for the future. Our fiscal year 2018-19 operating and capital budget is $18.1 million, and it is our mission to provide the highest quality water and wastewater services at the lowest possible cost while continuing our commitment to meet the needs of today's customers as well as future generations. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that mission. And when we look at our capital improvement plan, in the 12 and a half years that I've been fortunate to be manager at the Glasgow Water Company, we've completed over $38 million worth of improvements in our system. And that's just improvements on our side. That doesn't represent private investment improvements that have went on in our system. One of the ones that I'm very proud of, and we've talked about this before, is our sanitary sewer overflow remediation project. When one of the things that we were strapped with is that we have 21 identified sanitary sewer overflows within our system. You can see them noted there in red. And over the past several years, and at a cost of about $18 million, we have eliminated 20 of our 21 sanitary sewer overflows. This is, and of course everyone here is familiar with the project that we just completed and that stretched down the Wilderness Road corridor. That project went extremely well. And now we're essentially SSO free with the exception of one, and we'll talk about it in just a second, but it's more than just line work that took place here. We also had to go through and basically do a comprehensive upgrade of our wastewater treatment plant, and we increased the hydraulic capacity of that plant from 6 million gallons per day to 10 million gallons per day capacity. We also put in a 7 million gallon peak storm surge basin. So we upgraded the carrying capacity or the interceptors associated with our sewer system. So what that means is now during peak flows, that increased flow has to have somewhere to go. So we increased the hydraulic capacity of the plant, put in a peak storm surge basin of 7 million gallons. Now we're able to operate that. And two of the things that you're going to be considering tonight as action items is an amendment to our sewer use ordinance. That'll be coming up later in the agenda. I've reported before that at around February of the first of the year, we were issued our new KPDS permit from the state of Kentucky, and one of the parameters within our KPDS permit is that within 6 months, we have to go through and reevaluate what they call our local limits, and the sewer use amendment will be amending our local limits. Part of that is that we are required by U.S. federal EPA that we have a federal industrial pre-treatment program to protect our treatment plant, and also limit what type of industrial discharges can be sent to our wastewater treatment plant. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because when we went through this millions and millions of dollars worth of upgrade to our wastewater treatment plant, we're now in a position where we're able to take those limits that were imposed on us previously and basically expand those so that they don't have to be so stringent. And that's not in any way inhibiting or allowing any additional discharge to go into the environment. What that is a product that represents the work that we've done at that plant and shows that the removal efficiency and capacity of that plant is so much greater. So what we're going to do later in the agenda is a good thing. It's good for industry. It's good for business. And our local industry is excited about that. The other item that we have is we're going to ask for a resolution to the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority, because one of the things that we did when we started the last phase of this project is we borrowed $3.5 million from KIA, and we had that on a term of 20 years at 0.75% interest. We were in the process of closing that loan out and realized that the original project profile had that at a much greater value, and we're notified by KIA when we're going through this closeout process that those funds are still available. So what we're going to do is ask the council to approve the resolution and allow us to seek out those additional funds from KIA, which is in the neighboring neighborhood of about $1.78 million for 20 years at 0.75% interest, because we know from a fiduciary standpoint that we're not going to be able to get that type of interest rate in the future. And the reason why we didn't borrow it all the first time is because we paid portions of this with cash generated from our customer revenue toward our remediation project. So this is a very sound financial move that we're making. I just want to point that out. The last remaining phase of our SSO remediation project is phase 6, and what that entails is we're going to go from basically Broadway down around where the monument place is, up through, and this is Garcia's Grill, this is Cherry Street and North Ray Street here, and we're going to go past that. That overflow that is remaining is a low importance overflow, because in the last 2 or 3 years it's only overflowed once, and that was when in September the 1st, when we had Hurricane Harvey come through, and we basically had around 8 inches of rain within a 24-hour period. So this is not something it's still something that's on our radar to fix, because this will improve the capacity of this line moving forward and all the other improvements upstream that we're going to do from this. But from an overflow standpoint, we're in really good shape. One thing that I'm excited about is that this project back in the spring received what they called an Engineering Excellence Award from the American Council of Engineering Companies of Kentucky, and we will be going to Owensboro this Friday to the American Public Works Association Kentucky Chapter Conference, where we will be accepting the 2018 Environmental Project of the Year. So this project, just the magnitude and the sheer nature of it, has gotten some statewide publicity, and this is something to be proud of. I'm very proud of it. One of the things that I'd like to leave you with, and I've showed you this graphic before, but just to give you, now that we're in the process of eliminating our SSOs, our sanitary sewer overflows, our work is not done. Now so essentially we've increased the main carrying capacity of the sewer system. Now we will be going in and inventorying and evaluating the existing, what's left of the sewer system, and basically going in and making point repairs and comprehensive relays or outlays that will come with that. And the numbers that I want to leave you with is that 48% of our sanitary sewer collection system is older than 40 years, and 35% of our system, which is roughly about 51 miles, is older than 50 years. So you can see just from the timing aspect of it that it's approaching the end of its useful life, so that you can see where we're going as far as future capital improvement projects associated with our sanitary sewer system. One of the things that we will be doing within this fiscal year is we have roughly about $9.1 million of equipment and capital improvement plans scheduled. That's pretty aggressive. And one of the biggest ones of those, and I've been talking to this body for years about our redundant transmission line. We have actually completed phase 1 through 3. We're in the process of getting ready, hopefully within the next 2 months, to bid phase 4. Phase 4 will run from basically behind where Honey's Barbecue used to be to the front of where Mark Miller Marine is. That's roughly going to be about a $4 million improvement project that we have scheduled this year. And then the remaining phases will run us on through from Mark Miller Marine to where the Glasgow Christian Academy is, and then we have a small section that will then go from there to where we're going to construct a new water storage tank to hopefully look at complying with some disinfection byproduct issues, some additional storage capacity for water, or domestic and fire protection that's needed, and then also to hopefully better serve some of our wholesale customers. So the big thing that everybody likes to talk about when you focus on utilities is rates. So I'm going to leave you with rates tonight. Very proud of our rates. To understand our rates, you really need to understand our customer demographic by consumption, because your rates are based off consumption. 37% of GWC customers use 2,000 gallons or less. 2,000 gallons is our minimum bill. 45% of our customers use between 2,000 and 5,000 gallons per month. So roughly 82% of our customers use less than 5,000 gallons. And so our average residential customer uses about 3,500 gallons per month. And of course, you can see the large residential and then commercial and industrial users make up the remaining percentage. One of the things, and the reason the timing associated with why I'm here tonight is because last month there was a new comprehensive rate study that was put out for Kentucky by an engineering firm in Kentucky Rural Water, and I wanted to share that with you while that was fresh off the presses. And basically what they looked at was 340 water utilities in the state, and out of those 340 utilities, they surveyed 493 rates. And just to give you an example of that, the Glasgow Water Company essentially has two residential rates. We have a city rate and a county rate, so that's why you can end up with more rate structures than you do utilities. And basically what this new rate structure, what the survey for 2018 showed, was that the average cost for 5,000 gallons of water in the state of Kentucky, and this is out of 493 rate structures, was $39.75. And what's happened over the past 9 years, the average cost for residential, 5,000 gallons of residential water has roughly went up about $9 in 9 years. Glasgow, our city rate, is 10th. The state average for 5,000 gallons is $39.75. Our GWC city rate is $18.27. Our county rate is $24.39. So you can see that we're 10th and 51st within the state of Kentucky, and that's pretty impressive. The other thing that we did was not all of our customers, you can see from the demographic information, use 5,000 gallons. So what we did was brought it back down closer to our average. We looked at the 2,000 gallons for the minimum bill, just to give you a comparison. And what this represents is all the utilities that are within our region or utilities that are comparable or larger to us in size. So when you break it down by the minimum bill, you can see that our city rate is the cheapest at $8.67. And our county rate is $12.39. And everyone likes to compare us to Bowling Green, and I'll just give you a comparison. Our county rate is $12.39. Bowling Green's city rate is $14.33. So when people really want to talk about the cost of water, 5 gallons of water costs you 2.2 cents. We did the same thing on the wastewater side. This survey reviewed 230 sewer utilities in the state of Kentucky and 328 rate structures. And the average cost for 5,000 gallons in Kentucky, the state average was $41.12. And you can see that over the past 9 years, the average cost for sewer residential in the state of Kentucky has went up roughly about $11 in 9 years. On the wastewater side, Glasgow ranks 23rd. In comparison to the state average of $41.12, we were $23.66 for our city rate, and our county rate was $28.55, which we were 58th. The question that I commonly get as it's associated with sewer is, why is my sewer rate higher than my water rate? Well, that's a very easy question. typically the cost of treatment associated with sewer, the operating cost tends to be a little bit higher. And then the easiest part to answer that question is we just talked about $18 million worth of improvements that have been made in the sanitary sewer system. Those improvements have to have a debt service associated with them, whether we borrowed money, whether we issued bonds, or whether we paid cash. But you still have that cost associated with that, and we're very fortunate on the water side that most of those improvements, the debt service has lingered, those bond issuance have fell out over time, reducing that overall cost associated with the indebtedness. So that's typically why we have done so much on the capital side of improving our wastewater system, that funding that debt service has raised our rates. But when you look at this in comparison to the state, I'll pay that rate all day long. And we did the same thing on the wastewater side. We looked at all the customers within our region and customers that were comparable or larger in size. And you can see that our city rate fell in at $11.48, so we were the fourth cheapest. And our county rate fell in at $14.15. And again, everyone likes to compare us to Bowling Green, so I'll use the comparison of our county rate at $14.15. Bowling Green city rate is $16.15. So when you really look at the true cost of sewer, if you discharge 5 gallons worth of sewer to us, it costs you 2.9 cents. Accomplishments, we have been very fortunate that recently and within the last couple of years that we have achieved some statewide and even some national recognition. I'm not going to go into detail on all these. I'm very proud of each and every one of them. Of course, we were just named last week the best tasting water in Kentucky at the Kentucky Rural Water Annual Conference. Very excited about that. We're going to have the opportunity to compete at the national level. And, I always encourage our customers at home that, if you do have an odd or foul tasting water, please call the office and let us know. Because if you're on the end of a dead-end line and it's summertime and there's not a lot of consumption or demand on that line, we need to come out and flush that line and make sure that there's fresh water there. So there's things that we can do from a water quality standpoint to improve that. We encourage our customers to let us know that. One of the common questions I get about water is, I got an older house and my water just doesn't taste good. And we'll send a technician to look, and sometimes that home may have old galvanized line that's got tuberculation that's built up inside the pipes and some mineral deposits and things like that. So, our staff I'm very fortunate in the staff that I have, because they take the quality of the job that we do personally. And, anytime that the council has a complaint or knows of a complaint, or if a citizen or a customer has a complaint, please let us know, because if we don't know, we can't address the problem. And one of the things that we're very proud of is our area-wide optimization program. That's a federal U.S. EPA program. And basically, what that means is we are significantly exceeding state and federal standards for water treatment, and we have consistently been AWOP compliant for the past 12 years. So with that said, I'm going to stop and open it up to any questions that you might have.
Scott, one of the slides showed something very interesting, the growth. I just went like that.
Yes, sir.
Very interesting.
That's a good, growth is a good problem to have, and we're excited by that. With growth comes challenges, because as you increase those customer numbers, you also have to increase personnel to address the regulatory side of what we're doing, but also to address just the sheer volume of customers that you serve. So with growth comes growth on our part, but being the 14th largest utility in the state of Kentucky, it's time for us to grow and better serve our customers.
I want to congratulate you and your staff on all of your outstanding achievements, but especially on your environmental achievements. Well done. Thank you.
Best tasting water in the state for 10th lowest rate in the state. That is to be committed, Scott. Thank you, and I know you very much value the team and give them credit for that, and we do as well, so thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Young?
Scott, I just want to publicly thank you for what you've done for us. Anytime we've called in or I've messaged you, you have had your team on our issues within way less than 24 hours and have fixed the problem. So thank you for that, and also congratulations.
Thank you.
The next item we have on our agenda, thank you, Scott, is the first reading of ordinance establishing the 2018 tax rate for the city of Glasgow.
Be it hereby ordained by the City of Glasgow as follows. Section 1, there is hereby levied an ad valorem tax for the general fund of .174 per $100 of assessed value on real property, the same amount for $100 of assessed value of personal property, subject to taxation in municipal purposes and having taxable situs in the City of Glasgow as of the first day of January 2018, as listed in the tax assessment ledger compiled by the Barron County PVA. Section 2, all monies collected from this tax shall be paid into the general fund of the city to be used for payment of proper expenditures as determined by the council. Section 3, it is further provided that all taxpayers that may owe taxes under this levy shall pay same to the city tax collector on or before January 31, 2019. A taxpayer who pays his or her bill under this levy before November 30th of this year shall be allowed a discount of 2%. Those paying on or before December 31 of this year are allowed a 1% discount on the total tax bill. And it is further provided that to the tax bill of all taxpayers who fail to pay same on or before January 31, 2019, there shall be added a penalty in an amount equal to 6% of the total tax bill, plus penalty and interest at the rate of 6% per annum from February 1, 2019 until paid, and the taxpayer shall also pay all costs and expenses incidental to any action taken by the city for the collection of such delinquent tax bills. Section 4, the delinquent taxes shall be collected under the provisions of the Kentucky Revised Statutes relating to the collection of delinquent taxes by the city of a third class. Section 5, if any part of this ordinance shall be declared invalid for any reason, it shall not affect the remainder of the ordinance. All ordinances in conflict herewith are hereby repealed to the extent that they may conflict. Section 6, this ordinance shall be in full force from and after its proper passage and publication as required by law.
Having heard this ordinance read, do I have a motion to approve? Councilmember Gross, and second. Councilmember Neal. Any discussion?
I would like to make an amendment or a motion that, the rate that you're showing there of the .170, is generating almost $5,700 more than what we generated this past prior year, $5,694. I would like to propose that we change it to .170, which is still going to generate more income than we had, not including the revenue expected from new property. That's another estimated $2,700.
Have a motion and a second to change each of these rates. Is that what?
Or on the... That would be on the real property.
.170 on all of them.
.170 on all of it. On both the real and the personal.
So have a motion and a second to lower all of the property rates from they're not all 174, but all that are 174 to 170. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the amendment?
I'd like to say something. The current rate is .174.
The what?
The current rate is .174, and the proposed rate is the same, .174. It does bring in more money, but that's because, as stewards of the city of Glasgow, through what we've done, we've encouraged something, buildings, property values to go up, and I think that as we do that, the city is entitled to use that extra money that comes in to spend for more projects that the city deems worthy of spending money on. In years that the tax base has fallen, we've always tried to stay at the same rate and absorb that loss. It's only fair that we absorb the gain as well. I believe that for the viability of the city, we should keep the current tax rate as proposed and not lower the tax rate.
Other discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to say a little something too. Of course, the Finance Committee unanimously, it was our recommendation to leave it the same. Let me just throw a couple examples out there. We're having trouble right now keeping firemen and policemen because we can't pay them. We've got an elevator we're either going to have to replace or fix, and I know those are just a few of the expenditures that we could have, that we're going to have, or we could have more. And so I agree with Wendell about leaving the rate the same.
Other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second to amend the rates to 170. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? No. Roll call if you would, please.
Harris.
Yes.
Kirkpatrick.
No.
Gross.
No.
Lowry.
No.
Dickinson.
Yes.
Norris.
No.
Neal.
No.
Honeycutt.
No.
Witcher. Oliver.
No.
Hammer.
No.
Noes.
The amendment fails. Now we have a motion and a second on the original ordinance reading, which was the proposed rates as proposed by the Finance Committee, which are those that are published there before you. Any discussion on that motion? We have a motion and a second, yes. No more discussion, then we'll vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is first reading of the ordinance Mr. Young spoke of, amending the city sewer use ordinance.
That whereas on March 9, 1992, the City of Glasgow adopted on second reading ordinance number 1948, which is commonly referred to as the city's sewer use ordinance. Whereas from time to time, the Kentucky Division of Water reevaluates local limits for effluent discharge into the sanitary sewer system. Whereas on July 9, 2018, the Glasgow Water Company received written notification from the Kentucky Division of Water that a local limits reevaluation for the city pretreatment program was received, and that after a technical review of the reevaluation was completed, the Kentucky Division of Water approved revised local limits for the effluent discharge into the city's sanitary sewer system, subject to final approval and adoption by the city's legislative body. Whereas on July 19, 2018, the Glasgow Water and Sewer Commission unanimously recommended to the council that the sewer use ordinance be amended to comply with the revised local limits established by the Division of Water. Now therefore be it hereby ordained by the City of Glasgow as follows. Section 1, that Section 8 of Ordinance Number 1948 shall be and hereby is amended to read as follows, which shall be considered the new and revised effluent limitations for discharge into the sanitary sewer system. And you have there the new Section 8, which contains the parameters and the limits for each compound or element. Section 2, this ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication according to law.
We've heard this ordinance read. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Member Lowry, and second.
Second.
Councilmember Kirkpatrick. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is the first reading of a zoning amendment. That is for property Carroll Nicely Drive and New Bowling Green Road.
It appearing that Betty Bailey and others in care of Calvin Leach are the owners and applicants that have requested a zoning change for property located about 370 feet west of the Carroll Nicely Drive and New Bowling Green Road intersection and approximately 600 feet east of the Circle Road and New Bowling Green Road intersection, consisting of .913 acres more or less in the city, from an I-1 to a B3 zoning classification. A schematic drawing of the proposed area subject to rezoning is attached as Exhibit A. A trial-type due process hearing of this proposed zoning change was held on July 16th by the Planning and Zoning Commission. It resulted in the recommendation that the property be rezoned from I1 to B3 classification. Copies of the Commission's findings and recommendations are attached to this ordinance as Exhibit B. Now, therefore, be it hereby ordained by the city as follows. Section 1, the findings and recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission are hereby approved in all respects. Section 2, the property hereinafter described, which is at the intersection of Carroll Nicely Drive and New Bowling Green Road and Circle Road and New Bowling Green Road, are hereby rezoned from I1 to B3 classification, the property drawing being attached as Exhibit A. Section 3, all future development of this property shall comply with the requirements of the Development Plan Ordinance adopted by the Council on December 30, 1991. And lastly, this ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication according to law.
Having heard this ordinance read, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Councilmember Harris, and second? Councilmember Witcher. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have a resolution approving an increase in the amount of Glasgow Water Company's existing KIA loan of $3.5 million to an aggregate amount not to exceed $5.3 million.
That was on February 12, 2015, the Board of Commissioners of the Glasgow Water Company adopted a resolution that related to an application for loan assistance from KIA for the purpose of financing the construction of certain additions and improvements to the wastewater system, and expressing the Commission's intent to request that the city authorize the water company for this KIA loan of $3.5 million to finance the project. Whereas on March 9, 2015, the Council adopted a resolution, which was 2284, and it endorsed and approved the Commission's recommendation for the $3.5 million loan. Whereas the Glasgow Water Company received the aforementioned KIA loan in the original amount of $3.5 million and has been administrating that loan, and is now desirous of substituting previously utilized internal funds for the project with additional KIA, additional monies, totaling in round numbers $1.7 million pursuant to the same loan transaction. Whereas on July 12, 2018, the Commission of the Glasgow Water Company adopted a resolution expressing its desire for additional KIA funds and requesting that the City of Glasgow authorize the water company to take necessary action to access the additional KIA funds and amend the principal amount of the original KIA loan to a total not to exceed $5.3 million. Now, therefore, in light of the foregoing, be it hereby resolved by the City that the Glasgow Water Company General Manager or his designee shall be and hereby are authorized and directed to execute and submit any and all documentation necessary to amend the original KIA loan of $3.5 million to $5.3 million to finance construction of additions and improvements to the wastewater system.
Having heard this resolution, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Councilmember Oliver and Councilmember Norris with a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have a resolution authorizing the application of a Kentucky Office of Homeland Security grant.
That whereas the City of Glasgow desires to make an application for a law enforcement protection program funds for ammunition in the amount of $18,969.55, a project to be administered by the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security. Whereas it is recognized that an application for and approval of a Homeland Security fund imposes certain obligations upon the city. Now, therefore, be it resolved as follows. The mayor is hereby authorized to make application for this fund in the amount of $18,969.55, a project that is administered by the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security, and to prepare and execute all the documents necessary for that application process. If the project application is approved, the mayor is authorized and directed to execute and furnish all required documentation, including a memorandum of agreement as required by the Office of Homeland Security for the project, to facilitate and administer the project and to act as the authorized correspondent for the project.
Having heard this resolution, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Councilmember Oliver, and second?
Second.
Councilmember Kirkpatrick. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That's all the action items that we have on our agenda tonight. Got several announcements, the first of which is Merlin Jean and Friends with special appearances by R.J. and Polly, featuring Pearlie Curtis, and the Steel Country Band will be at the Plaza Theater on Saturday the 22nd at 7:30. Those tickets are $15. The Chamber of Commerce fourth quarterly breakfast in honor of Industry Appreciation Week will be Friday, September the 14th at 7 a.m. That'll be at the State Park. That breakfast is hosted by City and County. The Industry of the Year will be recognized at that time. Tickets are $17, and you can pick yours up at the Chamber office. The annual Lake Shore Cleanup on Barren River Lake will be held Saturday, September the 15th. You can contact the Chamber of Commerce for details. The Cultural Center presents the Harvest of History on Friday, September the 21st, and Saturday, the 22nd. Tours depart from the Cultural Center, and they start at 6 p.m. Each tour will last approximately 1 hour. Transportation is provided to the cemetery from the Cultural Center, and those tickets are $13 for adults, and students 3rd grade to 12th grade are $7. T.J. Sampson's Mission Foundation proudly presents the Glasgow Under the Stars, an evening in white. That is on Saturday, September the 22nd at 6 p.m. It will be held at the Old French Restaurant and will feature 8-track band. There will be dinner, dancing, silent and live auctions, and a raffle. Individual tickets are $50, and tables of 8 are available for $360. For more information, you can contact T.J. Sampson Mission Foundation for details. Chief Marr, if you would please step to the microphone. He's got one more quick announcement to make. Move quickly, Chief, about a grant application that was recently announced through Congressman Brett Guthrie's office. Chief? These folks are tired. Move.
All right. Yes, we received word last week from Congressman Guthrie's office, and it was officially published on Friday, and I believe it's in the paper today with an announcement from Congressman Guthrie's office. In January, we applied for what's known as an AFG grant, Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program through FEMA. It's a federal grant program, and we were awarded a total amount from the federal government of $172,286. Has a 5% match from the cities for a total of $180,900, and that'll be for the purchase of breathing apparatus for the fire department. Our current breathing apparatus is 15 years old this year, so it's going to go towards completely replacing one of the most important pieces of safety equipment we have in the fire department and the fire service.
Just wanted to pass on that application or that award. Yep. Because that is a significant amount of money and a much-needed piece of equipment for those firefighters. So if you do see any of your federal representatives, please pat them back and tell them we appreciate that. Is there any other business or announcements to come before this group?
Mayor, I just want to say thank you again for the work-ready banners that are around the square for industrial